Think about the last time your status felt threatened. Maybe someone talked over you in a meeting. Maybe you were left out of something you expected to be included in. Maybe someone more successful than you walked into the room and something shifted, something you didn't choose to feel and couldn't quite explain. It wasn't just uncomfortable. It felt urgent, almost physical, like something important was at stake. And technically, nothing was. You weren't in danger. No one was threatening your safety. But your body responded as if something fundamental had been put at risk. The real reason this happens is far stranger than ego or insecurity. Your nervous system doesn't experience a drop in social status the way it experiences a bruised elbow. It experiences it the way it experiences a threat to survival. Because for most of human history, that's exactly what it was. To understand why, you have to go back to the band again. The same small group, 20 to 50 people that we visited before. Moving across a landscape, sharing resources, making decisions collectively. No formal government, no written laws, no institutions. But rank existed. It always existed. In every hunter-gatherer society ever studied, the Kongsan, the Hadza, the Agta of the Philippines, the Ache of Paraguay researchers find the same thing. There is always a social order. Always an informal understanding of who has more influence, whose opinion carries more weight, whose needs get prioritized when resources are scarce. Not enforced by law, not declared by anyone, just understood. Continuously negotiated, constantly monitored, and deeply felt by everyone in the group. And this matters because in that world, your rank wasn't just a social convenience. It was a direct determinant of your access to the things that kept you alive. Higher rank meant better access to food during scarcity, better access to mates, better access to coalition partners, the people who would stand with you when things went wrong. Better access to protection, shelter, and information. Lower rank meant the opposite. Last access, least protection, least support when you needed it most. Robert Sapolsky, a neuroendocrinologist at Stanford, spent decades studying the relationship between social rank and biological outcomes, first in baboons, then drawing connections to human systems. What he found was stark. In primate groups, low rank isn't just socially uncomfortable, it's physiologically costly. Low-ranking individuals show chronically elevated stress hormones, suppressed immune function, higher rates of disease, and shorter lifespans. The body doesn't treat low status as a social inconvenience. It treats it as a chronic stressor, because in the ancestral environment, it was. Here's where it gets stranger. The human brain appears to have developed dedicated circuitry for tracking social rank, not as a side effect of general social awareness as a specific, resource-intensive system. Neuroscientists studying status processing have found that the brain responds to social rank information with some of the same regions involved in processing physical threats and rewards. A rise in perceived status activates reward circuits. A fall in perceived status activates threat circuits. The same circuits. This means that when someone talks over you in a meeting, or excludes you from a group, or signals that you rank below them, your brain isn't processing that as a minor social slight. It's processing it through the same hardware it uses to process danger. Because in the environment that hardware was built for, that's exactly what it meant. A drop in rank in a small band wasn't embarrassing. It was the beginning of a cascade. Less access to food, fewer coalition partners willing to defend you, reduced mating opportunities, increased vulnerability to everything the environment could throw at you. The stakes were real, and your brain never forgot. This is also why hierarchy forms so automatically, even in contexts where it makes no practical sense. Studies by researchers, including Henri Tajfel and later work in social identity theory, have shown that humans begin forming status hierarchies within minutes of being placed in a new group, even arbitrary groups, even when told explicitly that all members are equal, even when there are no resources being competed for. Your brain doesn't wait for a reason to establish rank. It starts doing it immediately, automatically, because in the environment it was built for, knowing where you stood was always urgent. There's something else worth understanding here. The desire for hierarchy isn't just about wanting to be at the top. It's about needing to know where you are at all. Uncertainty about rank, not knowing where you stand, Not being able to read the social order is itself experienced as a stressor. The brain would rather know its low status than not know its status at all, because in the ancestral environment, ambiguity about rank was dangerous. You couldn't calibrate your behavior correctly. You couldn't know who to defer to, who to challenge, who to align with. This is why social ambiguity feels so uncomfortable. Why you scan a new room and immediately, without trying, start making assessments. Why walking into a group of strangers produces a specific kind of alertness that isn't quite anxiety, but isn't quite neutral either. You're doing what your ancestors had to do every time the social landscape shifted. Mapping the hierarchy, figuring out where you fit, calibrating. Now think about what modern life does to this system. We live in environments with hundreds or thousands of social comparisons available at once. Social media gives you a continuous feed of status information: who has more followers, more recognition, more success, more visible markers of rank. Your brain, built to monitor the status dynamics of 50 people, is now receiving signals from thousands. And it can't turn off the processing. It wasn't built with an off switch for this. Every comparison registers. Every signal of relative status gets evaluated. Every indicator of where you stand relative to others gets fed into a system that was calibrated for a world where that information was literally life and death. This is part of why social media can feel so relentlessly draining even when nothing overtly bad happens. Your status monitoring system is running at a scale it was never built to handle, evaluating signals that don't actually map onto survival the way it assumes they do. The ancient band had 50 people. The algorithm has no ceiling. So the next time status feels like more than it should, when being overlooked hits harder than it seems like it should, when someone else's success triggers something that doesn't feel like simple admiration, when the social order of a room you just walked into registers before you've consciously decided to notice it, know what's actually happening. You're not shallow, you're not fragile, you're not failing to be above it all. You're running hardware that once made the difference between coalition and isolation, between access and exclusion, between surviving the winter and not. It still runs the same way. In a world where the stakes have changed almost completely but the wiring hasn't,